them come. This is their fate.
But my next topic is kind of still Nvidia related. I might as well get it out the way. Nvidia also made a big claim, that the 5070 was going to be able to be as performative as a 4090. There was the catch, I think that's what, a $600 device versus a $1,600 device. The catch is that's not the case. They're talking when they're adding in DLSS and multi-frame generation. Baseline performance, which kind of is the most important part, because if you have a sucky baseline performance, if you throw more frames on a sucky baseline performance, you're still going to have a sucky situation. So, baseline performance is nowhere near a 4090, which was expected, but they do have, pretty decent. It's still a decent hardware. I think that's what people are getting out of it. It's decent. It's not the greatest, but with these different upticks and all these DLSS and ray tracing and things like that, it still should be a very competitive card. Just not the claims of a 4090, which, you know, makes sense. My question to y'all is, how do y'all feel about multi-frames? How do y'all feel about frame generation? More so than anything. How do y'all feel about frame gen?
Um, I think, like I mentioned when it was announced, I think for most games, it's like it will improve performance, but the artifacting or the drawbacks will take a long time to iron out. It might be have to be done on a game by game basis.
Mm-hmm.
Because big games that collaborate with Nvidia, like Star Wars and Cyberpunk, like even those games have issues still with uh, frame generation, and especially multi-frame generation, where it's going to be doing a whole lot of predictive work in order to show what's on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I like in general, I like the LSS. I use it for 90% of the games I play. And the games that don't have it, I'll see if I can implement it into the system. Uh, but I would say for me, like I have my limit. Like I usually play on balanced or even quality. Like I don't ever push it to performance unless it's a weird situation like Elden Ring, which is like I'm trying to push as much performance as possible. But in general, I think that I'm not, as a person who built my PC, I'm not looking for multi-frame generation. Like I
Mm-hmm.
want a good balance between rasterization ability and the DLSS. Because the whole point of what I liked about the LSS is that it was optional, and when you used it, um, there were some drawbacks, but the benefits were clear that you can see it. Whereas like really pushing it towards the 50 series, it's going to be heavily reliant on the multi-frame generation. And while it will add performance, I personally know that I will see the artifacts, and there are a lot of games that won't ever be able to like update to fully compensate for that, especially like day one. Because that's also what I'm concerned about. It's like if I buy a game on PC day one, I buy, I don't know, whatever it is, the next Star Wars game from EA, it's probably gonna run trash on PC. And if it don't, it might still have issues with DLSS or something like that, or multi-frame generation that have to be ironed out over the next couple weeks, and that's just going to impact my desire to play that game at that time. So, yeah, having rasterization ability is a must, I think, for PC gaming. So that's how I feel. I'm not gonna go full into multi-frame generation.
So yeah, multi-frame generation, I feel like has and always will be a gimmicky thing. I just don't feel like no one cares and no one even has the refresh rates to make this make sense most of the time. The biggest thing has always been getting to a solid 60, 120 being, tops. Nobody cares about 240, especially not in actually competitive games where there may be a problem with artifacting and issues that are being introduced. Um, to me, it is a non-factor. To me, it feels as if DLSS without frame generation is the more important piece of this. Creating abilities to have lower resolutions that produce a 4K image. That is kind of the biggest selling point to me at this point. It's not anything to do with the multi-frame generation or even frame gen. I don't find it to be a useful tool yet. And even if I was to get a 240 hertz or some crazy, ridiculous high hertz refresh rate, I just don't find the experiences that I would want to play that with to even be meaningful enough as well. So, hats off to them for creating something, but and being innovative in what they're trying to do and showcasing this stuff. But you can literally run lossless scaling, and they have the ability to throw in crazy multi-frame generation stuff, and that thing is $8 on Steam. I just don't find the value yet. I'm not saying that they're not doing anything great. I'm just saying that the value proposition for the amount of money that they're requesting for these types of devices doesn't make sense. And at the end of the day, what truly matters is that rasterized performance. Your upscaler can't be touched. That I am not up. It's not up for debate. But we do have to give AMD time to provide their FSR4 implementation, and whether or not they actually can start to provide a meaningful uptick in what their upscaling looks like. I think that is the true battle. The upscalers. That is it. All this multi-frame stuff, I think it's all just, stuff to be thrown to the wayside, not to be important, not to be talked about anymore. I really do believe the upscalers are really what's key here, because what we want to become is more efficient and more scalable. What we want to happen is to have handhelds that can look just as good as some of these consoles we are experiencing from the last generation. What we want to have is the ability to have that suite of technology and all have the ability to run games well. What we don't need is more frames that to provide even worse performance or experience based off of the underlying frame rate and frame rate and latency. So that's what I think about multi-frame generation. That's what I think about the 5070. I do still think it may be price to performance. It'll be okay. I just don't think you should ever go into buying that thing and saying that, hey, I'm about to get 4090 experience. You're not. You buy a 5090 for that. Not even a 5080 can do that. So just know that they're talking about multi-frame generation, which to me, still a gimmick, hasn't proven itself. You can feel that other way. You can feel otherwise, but that is my take.